Welcome to the Masterclass, the top 5 mistakes to avoid when launching your Kickstarter, your tarot Kickstarter campaign, right? There's so many things that we can do, right? But let's talk about the things that we can avoid. And I'll reiterate, I love chatting with everyone before the workshop, right? This came from a line of frustration. Yes, I've had several successful Kickstarters, and little known to many, I've also had several unsuccessful Kickstarters. And it was with the unsuccessful Kickstarters that I learned what I could do to make the successful ones successful. So I want to make sure that we're getting both sides of the coins, because there's a lot of pretty pictures that are painted about, oh yeah, I'll just do the Kickstarter and raise $100,000 and be done. Right? That is a fantasy. It's a fantasy when we don't put our knowledge to work. And this workshop is designed to talk about the things to avoid so that way you don't make the same mistakes, right? We want you to win. That's why we're here. We're here to win. Excellent. And if you have done a Kickstarter before, please type a 1 in the chat. If you have not done a Kickstarter before, please type a 2 in the chat, just so I know where everybody is and we can speak to the things that will come up for you individually. Let's see how the chat is looking. I see, awesome. Azaya is a 2, Carol's a 1, Nadia is a 2. Will, I believe you're a 2, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, awesome sauce. Okay, so here we go. We're like looking at Kickstarter in general, right? There's a whole bunch of statistics. And these statistics are here so that way we can understand the breadth and the scope of possibility. So there have been over 500,000 projects launched on Kickstarter in total. And we're talking like this is the year 2023. And Kickstarter has been around for, I need to get the exact date, but it's probably like a decade or less, right? These are all pretty fairly new concepts, crowdfunding, like these types of digital platforms are all relatively new. So we are in a great place to be learning about the things that can help us move forward. So over 500,000 projects have been launched. Only just about 200,000 projects have been successfully funded. That means that 1 out of 2 campaigns fails. That's something to really understand. It's that just putting up a Kickstarter and hoping and praying that it will take on is like, that's the bare minimum. It's awesome. We can celebrate the fact that you get it up, right? And there's so much, there's so much to be done. There's so much that we can do. There's worlds of possibility that we can create. So we're going to get present to what those things are, so that way we don't make that mistake of just setting it and forgetting it. And we'll talk about that more in a little while. So there has been over $6 billion raised on Kickstarter total. So 200, let me do the math here. There's 200,000, 6 billion, right? Oh my gosh, my calculator won't even go that high on my phone. I was gonna do the math to see about how much. Let's do it this way. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Siri is not talking to me either. So we won't do it that way. But 6 billion divided by 200,000 projects, that's a lot of money. So the people who have had successful Kickstarters, they've done really well on average, right? And then there's talking about the categories that have had the highest success. That's Siri talking in the background. Now she wants to respond. Okay, so the top 3 categories that have gotten the highest success rate, thanks, Isaiah. She's got a sense of humor. Are comics, dance, and theater. And that makes sense, right? Because theater projects, if you've ever scrolled through Kickstarter.com, theater projects, they've been known to raise over $1 million. So it's the amount of money that these particular categories have generated and the nature of the projects. Like, I don't need $1 million to launch a tarot deck. It would be nice, right? But I don't need $1 million. Maybe, my needs are a lot lower. So when we're talking about the highest success rate, we're talking about, how many are launched and how many are succeed as a result, and also how much money they've generated. So this is just an idea. We can learn from these categories, right? If you go to Kickstarter and you search comics, dance, or theater, you could go in and have a look at the way that they've constructed their campaigns, the way that they are interacting with people, the way that they've designed their campaigns, and learn from them. It's not just a random statistic that has nothing to do with us. You can take the time to go and see why they have the highest success rates, what they're up to that you can emulate and apply to your campaign. This is all awesome, amazing information for us that we can use. And, oh wow, here's the statistic, the statistic. 10% of all projects never receive a single pledge. Not one, right? And almost 61% of projects fail. So it's a little bit more than what I guesstimated earlier. 61% and 10% of those do not receive a single pledge. And we're going to talk about why. Okay, and also at the bottom here, it says the 3 categories that get the most pledges: games, design, technology. Yeah, these are the ones that are high ranking. It's like games and technology, they're usually like a minimum $100,000 campaign. And that's because they also have a high need. If I'm designing a prototype of something that requires, foreign materials, assembly, coding, there's a whole lot to it. And there's a lot to what we do as well, right? So not to discount what it is that we do. And we can complete it as a one-stop shop. If someone is manufacturing a tech product, they have to send it out. They have to outsource in some kind of way, unless they're like Superman. Okay, so these are the statistics, right? And can you type a 1 in the chat if you feel that these statistics are higher, like especially the amount of projects that fail? Was that number higher than you expected? Type a 1. If it's lower than you expected, type a 2.
I don't know.
Got it.
I have no idea.
Right. Often we don't. Isaiah says 1 and 2. Often we don't have any idea, which is why it's great to get familiar with what's going on here and what's going on out in the landscape of things. All righty. So now that we know that, let's get into some scenarios and what we can do to avoid the mistakes. Scenario number 1 is that you've built your campaign and you're ready to start promoting. Like, you've done all of the things. You've got some really nice graphics. You've got the video done. You did some mock-ups or got your prototype and took pictures. You wrote some really nice words. Like, that's a lot of work, number 1, to get that far. So yes, there is absolutely some space we get to insert for celebration. And at that point that you've designed all of that content for your launch page, it's like, oh, okay, great, I'm ready to start. Let me start promoting now. That, my friends, is your first big mistake. Not building community before you launch is a huge mistake. And I've watched webinars and masterclasses from people like BackerKit, which is one of Kickstarter's partners, unofficial partners, that they help you through the fulfillment process and manage communications with your pledgees. They've done all kinds of research. And this was the #1 thing that I saw, that people were making a mistake. And it was the #1 piece of advice from them, is to start building your community right now. Don't wait until your project is your campaign is all ready. You got the T's crossed, the I's dotted, the graphics up. Like, that is the wrong time to start building community. Start building now. Start building right now. It doesn't matter that your project is not finished. Build a community around you completing the project. Share your process along the way. Ask people do polls, ask people for their advice. Maybe you're comparing, maybe you're looking into what paper quality to use. Get people involved. Waiting until you hit the launch button to start building the community is absolutely too late. And that's likely the projects that don't receive a pledge at all, or one of the 61% of projects that fail. And there are ways that your community can take a massive increase during your campaign. But these miracles can reach you while you're in action, while you're already in action. And we don't want to depend on them, right? What we can depend on is us getting into action in this moment and starting the process right now. Excellent. Here's another, type of 1 in the chat if you're good with that. If you get that you can start building community now. Got it. Nadia's a 1, Carol's a 1, Isaiah's got it. Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Will says we are. That's what I like to hear. Yeah. Awesome. And we'll talk at the end about where it is and what you're up to. And we'll fine tune anything that we see here that falls along these lines, just to make sure you're in alignment with success. Excellent. All right. Scenario number 2. You launched, right? A lot of times people don't even think past this point when they're in creation mode, right? They're just like, oh yeah, launch, success, awesome, done, right? And that there's a bit of a fairy tale in there too. So here's a scenario of things that can happen during the process. Scenario is you launched, you've got lots of visitors, but not many pledges. So you've managed to like bring in lots of clicks. Maybe you use something like a bit.ly link so that you know exactly how many people clicked your link when you shared it. Maybe you did something like in your MailChimp campaign, when you're sending out an email to your list, you understand through MailChimp by looking at the analytics how many people actually opened the email, how many people clicked on the links, right? You're looking and there's a lot of people that are coming in, right? There's like hundreds of clicks, but there's only like a couple of pledges. It's something that could make you scratch your head, like, what is going on here? And that leads us to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is that possibly you have too many pledge options. This is something that I've seen over and over and over again on the Kickstarter platform. And how do I get present to these patterns? It's not that anyone told me, it's that I go on there once a week, once every couple of weeks, and have a look at the live campaigns. How are they doing? What can I learn from them in real time? It's not just the successful campaigns that I have a look at. I look at the unsuccessful ones too, because there's so much that we can learn from each other. I've even taken time to reflect on my unsuccessful campaigns to see how much it is that I could learn from them. And one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen is that people give way too many pledge options. So you see this guy here, he's looking at this wall of juice and soda options. And what happens, and this is basic human psychology, if that a person has too many things to choose from, they will choose none. Not their favorite, not the one that stands out the most, not the option that's on top, not the one that their mouse is right next to. They will choose none because people want to be secure in their choices. They want to feel good about their choices, and confusion does not feel good. So a person will most likely choose nothing rather than spend the time to go through all of the options, compare, contrast, look in their bank account and their wallet, do projections to see what it is that they can afford. Like, none of that will happen. You'll get a blank stare and they'll click away. So this is based on the scenario that someone is getting lots of visitors, but they're noticing that they're not getting a lot of pledges. And again, many times people don't think into this part of the scenario because they can't see past pressing the launch button. So we're in there, we're in the campaign now, we're opening up the doors of possibility for you to look in and see what scenarios might come up for you. That's mistake number 2. We're doing good. Mistake, here we go. Let's go to Kickstarter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up another window and I'm going to show you some of the campaigns that are active right now in this moment, and we're going to see what we can learn from them in real time. And I love, love, love doing this exercise. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Here we go. So this is, you just go into Kickstarter.com, and in the top search bar, you can type the word tarot and it'll bring up all of the tarot projects. It says, show me tarot projects in all categories on Earth, but you can actually select different geographic regions, and sorted by magic, but you can sort by popularity, end date, which ones have gotten the most funding. So let's actually look at that. Who's gotten the most funding ever? I'm not surprised. Ali Man's Tarot is here. How many people are familiar with Ali Man Tarot? You can put an emoji or a hand up. Carol is not. Holy moly. Okay, got it. So we'll go in here, we'll take a look in real time. This project has already ended, but note how the campaign is still up live on Kickstarter. You got that? The project ended a long time ago, but the page is still up. So your Kickstarter campaign page will be up forever. So there's something to consider there. We can talk about longevity and what that looks like for your project. When you launch your Kickstarter, what does it mean for you that it'll be up there forever? Well, look at what Ali Mantaro has done. Is that I could go and order a copy now. This requires you to go back into your campaign after it's ended and edit this button. Instead of pledge, because it's over, it was over in August of this year. I'm sorry, it was last updated in August. I think it ended in April. So they've edited this button so that now I can click it and go get a copy now after the campaign is done. That is to your advantage. This is free advertising on the Kickstarter platform. So here we go. We're scrolling down. Funded in under 12 hours. That means that they met their goal in less than 12 hours. That's crazy. And how much did they raise? This project raised $1.4 million. Their goal was $85,000. And they had almost 20,000 backers. What can we learn here? Look at the category that they were in. They were in the graphic design category. That's a question that a lot of people have. Which category should I post in? Should it be illustration? Should it be tabletop games, playing cards? Now, them posting in graphic design doesn't mean that, oh, well, if I put mine in graphic design, then it's definitely going to be successful. Not necessarily, right? And let's keep looking. They've got some pretty neat photos here. They've got a lot of text. And they've also pulled from different decks. So this is one deck that's composed of one card from many other decks. And that was part of their marketing genius. Essentially, if let's say that the deck has 133 cards in it, right? We can see that right here. That means that they had 133 individual people marketing for this campaign. That is one of the things that made this project so successful. Please pardon the sirens. So here we go. They also have a community where people can have a discussion about it. They have a Discord. A Discord is a little known social media platform where you can create communities and have discussions. They also have a fan page. So these are the places where they've been collecting their people before they even launched. These are clues. Success leaves clues. So we're doing some recon here, and we're getting information about how they were successful. They're showing pictures of the cards. And they've got some really cool things in the background that creates the context for the mood. Let's go down and look at their rewards. They have the deck as one reward, a deck with boosters as another reward, some art, 5 decks, this one has a deck and a book. This one's a deck and a book with some extra stuff. And some of these, it looks like, they don't even have to do with the deck itself. There are some things in here. Let me just check. Oh, they all do have the deck, but they've got add-ons. So they're very specific with what add-ons. This has a deck and a book. This has a deck. And also these have some other goodies in it. So we've got to get really specific with what we're letting people understand that they're going to receive, right? Or else I'm going to blank out and I'm not going to choose anything. But you can see clearly here that they've got very different price tags: $45, $87, $107, $173. So it's good to get really clear.
Seems to be a lot.
Right, exactly. That seems like a heck of a lot. And there's some things that we just can't explain away. Like, for instance, they're in the graphic design category, but that doesn't mean that that was the reason why they were successful. Maybe if they had fewer pledge choices, maybe they would have earned twice the amount of money in their campaign. You never know. And Will is saying, yeah, it feels like a lot. So you can make that adjustment for you in your campaign. They've got lots of pictures. Oh my goodness. So many visuals here. It's good to take note. They've also got a mock-up of the book. And they explain the pledge tiers here. More pictures, more add-ons, and they explain the art pieces that they are, and art pieces and stretch goals. And they introduce a lot of the artists. And that takes up a lot of the space. But what they're doing is they're telling a visual story. And also, they're displaying the marketers, essentially. Each one of these people is marketing this deck. So I'm going to take a pause, stop the share. What is one thing, and you can unmute for this, what is one thing that you just learned from the Alleyman Tarot Kickstarter that ended earlier this year? It's still up on Kickstarter now forever, getting free advertising. What is your biggest takeaway from going through that campaign? You can type it in the chat, or yeah, go ahead and unmute, Will.
Official Discord site. I haven't heard of that before. I mean, we have a website that we're trying to put up. It's kind of like a fan page, but you know, they'd have to go to that. The official Discord looks like it's something that's automatically also something that people are familiar with in Kickstarter. So what's that all about?
Got it. It's not necessarily something that people in Kickstarter are familiar with. They've just paired the two in their campaign. Me personally, I don't even participate in Discord, but I know about it, right?
Well, Discord is a social media that is very much connected with the gamer community.
Okay.
So there's a lot of, you know, video games, but also board games, role playing. And I think the creator of that deck was kind of belonging to that community before he started with the tarot thing.
Thanks, Zaya.
Sorry.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, that's a big community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, both my sons are gamers, and they're a lot involved in Discord, and you can create your own community inside the big community. But it's a kind of a very specific audience and rather young, I would say.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we can get complete on that. You can integrate whatever community you feel is most appropriate to your audience. Here's an example. Oh, go ahead, Carol.
No, I'm just wondering if they were so successful is because they had all this body of other artists within the group that promoted. They all have their own community. So I think that's probably part of the success of the campaign, because everybody was doing their job. So as one individual solo person, it's going to take us a lot more work to get the word out than when you have 10 people working on the same project.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that is a huge takeaway. Marketing.
Actually, because I was a backer of that campaign and I followed it very closely.
Yeah.
He was alone when he started, or they were alone when they started, and they got completely overwhelmed by their own project, and then they had to create a team to help them out. It's like they were like overturned by the things, like crazy thing. So yes, it can also happen for anyone, for an individual. We have to maybe get ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's too successful, what do you do?
Exactly. It's something to consider.
Well, one of the things that happened is that the first project that they did, they were more than 9 months late because of the success. Because it was completely impossible to have the printer that they had found beforehand do something like 20 times as many decks as they, were planning to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kept getting reminders that, okay, chill, you're going to get your pledge, chill. Yeah, we're working on it. Help me out here.
Yeah, reminds me of indie record labels. There's a famous story about the band called the Smiths, and they actually bankrupt the indie label because they were so successful. The band, the label didn't know how to deal with it, and they actually went bankrupt. And it's a famous story about success and how it can actually just completely, you know, blow up the company because it needed a corporation to take care of the success of the group. So that's a famous story. It's almost something like this. You get success, you don't know how to, you're only one or two people. How do you deal with this? You need more people to actually, support this. And it just blows up.
Yeah.
We didn't think about that. We're not thinking that it's going to be too successful. But that's something a lot of people don't think about, that can happen.
Right.
It can be a big surprise.
It can
And you
be.
don't know how to handle it.
And you can have, plan B, plan C, ready to go. For
Yeah.
instance, there is a small printer that I've been using, and I've got another one lined up just in case it gets to be bigger. The
Oh,
small printer, I can't think of the name of it at the moment, but it's like a mom and pop shop. And then if it goes wide, there's a large one called Print Ninja, that, the minimum quantity is 5,000. So there's a lot of research that we can do just to, line it up just in case, right? Excellent. Nadia, you're good? Feel free to just drop an emoji if you're okay. And we're going to hop back into the next scenario. So this is the same scenario, right? You launched, you've got lots of traffic and not many pledges. So this one is leading us to another way to look at this same scenario. And that's mistake number 3, is that some people set it and forget it. They're like, okay, I press launch. That's all the responsibility that I have until the campaign ends. That is false.
Yeah.
That is false. And as Isaiah was saying, that there were like many updates from the Owlyman Tarot, like that's our job to do. Updates don't happen automatically. Like we get to let our community know, okay, this is happening. This is happening. Okay, we were going to go with this printer. Now we're going to go with this printer. Thank you. We've reached our initial goal. Like all of those announcements come from you, and it lets your pledger know that you're alive, that you're paying attention, that you're actually interested in engaging with them, and it's not just a transaction. So the mistake is just letting the campaign sit there for the number of days that the length of the campaign is, and not doing anything to continue to engage your community or to share. Like, yes, you build community before, but you build community before, during, and after. What you're also cultivating are loyal followers. There are people that I've backed, and like I want to know what their next project coming out is. Right? This is not just for this project. This is for life. You really want to make a relationship with the people who are supporting you. And setting it and forgetting it is one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of Kickstarter projects make. If you're good with that, type a 1 in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Got it. Will's got it. Awesome. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Nadia.
Get back into this.
Thank you. Thank you, Isaiah. Okay, awesome. So we're headed into the next scenario. The scenario is that your campaign is done, right? So we've moved on through the before, the during, after you press the launch button, and now your campaign is done, and you did not meet the goal. This is a scenario that we're dealing with. Now, for some people, this is like life or death. Either I succeed the first time or I don't. And that's it. I'm done. After that, oh, I can't. There's nothing else that I can do. That is another fantasy. This is not this point, but you could always do the campaign again. It's not the end of the road if it doesn't meet the goal the first time. Guess what? You can go back and take inventory of what you have done. Okay, let's say that you have generated a community of 100 people. Awesome. Keep building. Launch it again when you've generated a community of 250 people, if that's going to help you get closer to your goal. The biggest mistake here would be giving up. And that's not even the point that we're making on this slide, but let's keep going. Mistake number 4 is not learning from others. Imagine if you never even scrolled through Kickstarter. You have no idea what other people are doing, have done, will do, or what's possible. Like, learn from others who have done it. Kickstarter still has past campaigns up, like Ali Mantero and so many others. So you can look and see what led to their success, what led to this campaign, this particular campaign failing. You could even go into the person's profile and see, did they come back and do it again? What did they do differently? There is so much learning that can happen here. And this is all, it's all on us, right? We get to make the most of this, including other people's mistakes. That was mistake number 4, right? I've launched 6 campaigns, I believe. I have to go back and check. Some of them successful, some of them not. And I'm launching another campaign on October 1st. And it is my absolute pleasure to take you step by step live starting next Tuesday on what it is that I'm doing, how I'm building community, how it is that I'm putting together the campaign from the very beginning, starting from scratch. How am I calculating how long my campaign should be? How do I know that I'm ready to launch? We're going to go through a whole checklist. Does my project fit the rules? Did you know that the Kickstarter has rules about what you can put on? Carol's nodding her head, yeah. How about creating a realistic timeline? What does that look like? How do you determine what your project goals are? And this is color by number, right? We get to do this together for 6 weeks. And we get to make these decisions together, learning from each other, learning from what's up there. How do you describe your project? How do you create a rockin' video without being super techie? There's so many tools out there, plug and play, that you don't have to know all of the ins and out of, like Adobe Premiere and all of these things. You can make a really awesome video and have it be really simple. How do you create the tiers? What do you do pre, during, and post campaign? How do you fulfill? How do you use social media without ads? How do you properly update your project and keep your community engaged? And how do you create a sustainable system that lands you sales of your deck forever, not just during the campaign? That's what we'll be talking about during the 6 weeks. And the way that you participate in that is there's a link that I'll be sharing in the chat that goes to a Patreon page. This Patreon membership is only $27 a month. So to hang out with me for 6 weeks, it is so low. The value here, the cost of your success is so high. So I'll drop the link. Let me just copy it into our chat. you can go here and you can join me live. This is something that likely will not happen ever again. But because I'm already in the process, I'm going to be launching on October 1st. I said, of course, I want to share this with my community. Of course, it makes sense to bring people along as I'm doing it myself. Of course, it makes sense to show and to share and to help avoid the mistakes that I've made and that others have made that I've gotten to learn from, and to save you a bunch of time so that you can launch with peace of mind. It's easy to launch with anxiety. This is an opportunity to launch with peace of mind. And bonus, in this community of legacy creators, like, creating a tarot deck and getting it out into the world is not just about you sharing a deck with pretty pictures. Like, you're actually leaving your legacy, right? So in this community, you will also find all of the replays from all of the masterclasses that we've had so far. And it will continue to populate each month with all of the classes that we will have. Today's replay will be in here. The top 5 card deck printers and how to work with them. Do you remember that workshop that we had a couple months ago? That's in here. All of the Be Your Own Publicist, ready for press. All of the replays are here. This is like your key to success. And it's only $27 a month. So you are invited. The link is in the chat. This is to help you avoid mistake number 4, which is not learning from others. Here's your opportunity to learn and to apply. Not just learn, write it in a notebook, and then tuck it away until you feel like looking at it a couple years later. This is where we get to work together, learn, and apply it in real time. Type a 1 in the chat if you've got that. And also if you can see the link in there. Nadia's got it. Awesome. Carol's got it. Amazing. Link is there. Thank you, Isaiah. Excellent. Opportunity of a lifetime. Let's talk about our last mistake. This is mistake number 5. And the scenario is you finished your campaign and you look back and you wonder, is there something else that I could have done? That's the one that caused me sleep. That's the one where I looked back and I was like, man, I could have, well, could I have? And I just didn't know. And it was a big question mark. There were lots of opportunities that I didn't know that I didn't know. And we're going to talk about one that's coming up right here, which is a big reason why I'm launching a Kickstarter campaign myself on October 1st. So we want to make sure that you know what you know, and that there's not this big blind spot in your Kickstarter campaigning when you're ready to launch. So here we go. The mistake is not researching special Kickstarter promos. Did you know that there were even special Kickstarter promos? Aha! Well, guess what? There's a huge one coming up next month. We'll come back to that. And it's called Witch Starter. This is literally copy and paste from the Kickstarter website. And I'm going to read it. It says, through October, take part in Witch Starter, our open call for magic and divination projects. To participate, launch a project with a theme of magic or discover new favorites to pledge to. We'll give an extra promotional boost to projects that follow this theme. And this is throughout October. So if you're doing a tarot deck, launching in October is the perfect time because Kickstarter already says we're giving you an extra promotional boost this month. So this is something that you may not know that you didn't know. Well, you can find out more at kickstarter.com/witchstarter. It'll take you right to this page, and the way that you participate, I'll just finish reading it. It says whether it's a deck or dice or book or board game, Witch Starter projects may span any category on Kickstarter. Projects started via the link right here, which says start a project today on the left-hand side. Projects started via the link in this module will automatically be tagged as Witch Starter. So in order to participate, you gotta use that link. Now, this is not the only promotional thing that Kickstarter will do in our favor. They've done all kinds of campaigns like Make 100, which was a hashtag that they use where you can make 100 of something and they'll give it an extra promotional boost. There's all kinds of really cool things. But it looks like this one was made just for us. So these are some of the projects that are on Witch Starter right now. So some people have already launched and are likely going to use this promotional boost to boost them as long as they're live in October. I'm choosing to start and end in October, so the way that I'm timing my campaign is a little bit different, but these are ones that have already been started. One is a comic. It's a sci-fi alien Omegaverse romance called Our Tainted Stars. So this is already being promoted through Witch Starter. This one is called, this is a horror comic. And remember, the theme is anything to do with magic, right? And then there's also the beer tarot. And you can see that they've got a beer themed deck. So they're spot on. This could be one of us. So this is an invitation to hop on to Kickstarter. You could even search the beer tarot and see what they're about. What are they doing that you can emulate, that you can learn from, that you can reflect on, that you can be inspired by? Those are the 5 mistakes. And we've covered them all. And let's just take a moment to review really quick what they were. One was not building community before you launch. That was mistake number 1. Number 2 is having too many pledge options, because when people have too many things to choose from, they choose none. The third one is the set it and forget it approach, which is a big mistake because it's a huge opportunity to continue to engage with your community and provide value even during the campaign. Mistake number 4 was not learning from others. And there's a huge opportunity here to learn from me for the next 6 weeks as I do and build a Kickstarter campaign from scratch with you live, and you can follow along and do it for yourself by using that link in the chat. And then mistake number 5 is not researching special Kickstarter promos. And they have them that go on all the time. And let me show you just one more thing, which is an interview that is in the deck design group. And this interview is with Jennifer Cooper Steadley. And Jennifer is the creator of Tarot Disassembled. And in this interview that you can find in our group, and let me copy and paste this link into the chat too, just in case you want to hang on to it and watch the interview. She's talking about how she had no idea that her project was going to be so successful. She raised over $50,000. And she gives us the secret to how she prepared, how she fulfilled on it. It's so funny on her either her Instagram or her Facebook profile. There's a picture of her standing in front of her garage and her garage is filled with boxes and boxes of decks. Like, you don't know how 1,000 decks looks until it arrives at your door. So she said she was using some as like makeshift tables, like in her living room. Like, the inventory was just everywhere, but she managed. And she said that the way that her project was boosted was through, there's a section called Tarot Projects We Love, where the editors of Kickstarter, they choose not randomly, but they go through and they discern which projects meet their category. And she was featured in Projects We Love, and that gave her project a major boost, totally unexpected. So the link for the interview is there. You can totally go and watch it. She shares so many golden nuggets, right, that we can learn from.
What's her name again?
Jennifer Cooper Steadley. I'll go type it in the chat for you. And I believe that that's a correct spelling. But you could even go on Kickstarter and find her project, Tarot Disassembled, and look and see what she did. How do her graphics and her content come across? Maybe you could even look with the lens of, let me look and see what it is here that most likely had them choose her as a project we love, right? Learn from her. Excellent. So you've got 2 links in the chat that you can copy and paste and hang on to. One is the Patreon, so that you can join me for 6 weeks and also get access to all of our previous masterclass recordings. And we can do this together live. And the other link there is the interview with Jennifer Cooper Steadley, so you can listen to someone who's had massive success and how she welcomed that into her life. So these are the 5 mistakes, and you've got tons of tools now. Tons of tools just from our discussion today, and also from the interview that you can watch. And do you have any questions? Like, now is an opportunity. If you have one burning question, happy to hop right into it. Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was when I launched mine, I was very much approached by people who wanted to help me promote the campaign. Is that a necessary step? Because I feel like maybe it would have taken me to a different level. I mean, I did have a few pledgers, but I didn't meet my goal. So I was just wondering, because it was like almost every day I had a message that, hey, let me help you with the campaign. So I don't know if it's justified cost or not to do. So.
Right. And the answer to that question, Carol, which is a really great question, is that we don't know.
Yeah, okay.
There's no way to know.
Right.
Right. It is a huge risk, right? Especially if finances is not one of our most abundant resources, then it's really important to take into account where it is that you're distributing your money, right? So it's a risk, and of course it's not necessary, right? There are ways to build community that we can create ourselves. We can absolutely do this, in an infinite number of ways.
And can you do a campaign for when you're deciding to reprint? Yeah, right?
No,
I know. No, yeah. That's what are the rules, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the rules.
The rules is that you can't do it just to change the packaging, and that you can't do it just as a reprint. So here's what I did. Is that there was a Kickstarter that I did for a unicorn deck that I created called Badass Baby Unicorns. And you can totally, search and look that up on Kickstarter too. And then what I did was I created a second edition that had more cards, and that allowed it to meet the rules. It wasn't just a reprint.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your question. Hey, Will. Oh, you're welcome, Nadia. Thank you for being here. Will, did you have a question too?
Well, yeah, the pledge options.
Mhm.
We saw in that example that well, there was a lot of different people working on that project.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be a lot of options that you could take. And yeah, they were very specific and all that, but I was interested in maybe what kind of pledge options are usually pretty useful to start out with. Okay. Because I do some research on Kickstarters, and there are a lot of different opinions according to what your project is.
Right.
And but I was wondering if they're generally in what we do, what would be some of the most beneficial pledge options and stuff, like expanded decks. Like we're not ready to do the Kickstarter yet. This is something in the future, but we want to prepare for it in a sense that we want to create the products now that will be the pledges of the future.
That's right. Yes. Excellent. And I love the way that you asked the question, because we know that there's no right answer to this, right? We just saw Ali Mantero have a barrage of options and they were still successful. Yes, there are outliers, and there are some people who are not going to follow, like a cookie cutter format for how to create a Kickstarter campaign. What I can share with you is what I've done personally that I found successful, and also what I've seen through my research. And what I found is that having the options be very clear. Think about who it is that you're serving. So when we get present to who it is that we're serving, then it makes sense for, here's an example of 3 options. One is a single deck, right? And as a tier. And I usually do this in the most stripped down version as possible. No box, just the plastic. No booklet. If I can, I'll do a PDF booklet, by giving them a QR code, but just the deck. And these are for the people who want to participate, like they want their deck collectors, their deck, I like to call them deck fiends, that just, they need to have it, but they don't want to spend extra money on it. So I'm solving that problem for them by stripping it all down. The second option that I've seen that's really popular, and that also did really well in my campaigns, is having the option of a deck that is a collector's edition. Like you might have a postcard or fine art print, or something that you include in there that has you sign it, or write a special message to them. Maybe it's got an extra, a couple of extra pieces of merch in there. It's got the fancy box, it's got all the bells and whistles, the booklet printed. Like there are people who love to collect. Like they would put it in a glass case if they could, but they want all of the things, right? So that would be a second tier. And a third tier that I've done in the past that has been really successful, because it's like these people know that it's for them, right? Either you want the stripped down one, or you want the one with all the bells and whistles. Either I just want the deck and the cards to use, or I'm a collector and I know that that's what I want. The third tier is for wholesalers. Usually I'll do like 5 or 10 deck pack at a discount, at a wholesale discount.
Huh. Never thought
And
about
between those 3 tiers, like they're so distinct that you absolutely know which one is for you. There's no question.
So the wholesalers is like having a package of 3 or 4 decks. Is that what you're saying? With the box or something like?
Right. So it's packaged for retail, which means that it's got the box, it's got the barcode on it.
Okay.
It's wrapped in plastic. It's got just enough so that it can be resold. Like it's at enough of a discount that they can go ahead and put it out for retail price and make a profit themselves.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
One of the options that we had the pledge on was the having the reading. You know, you have the deck and then you offer a reading. My collaborator does psychic readings,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's someone, you know, that seemed to be a favorite.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's crucial.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Right. Sometimes it depends on, you always want to come back to who it is that you're serving. When I look at it for myself as a creator, I tend to create decks for people who do readings. So for me, because that's the audience that I've attracted. So for me, it wouldn't really make sense to offer readings because my audience are people who do readings. And if someone has a customer base or community base of people who are just learning, or people who are on the are on the other side of the consumerism, they're the ones that actually want the readings, then it absolutely makes sense. You're so right, Carol. Awesome. One more question. If there is one, Nadia, do you have any questions before we depart? Will, you good? Carol,
Yeah,
you
yeah, I'm good. That was some good answers. Very helpful.
good? Nadia says she's soaking up the knowledge. Awesome. Make sure you hold on to those 2 links. Join me for 6 weeks. Even if you're not ready, you can get the wheels churning and have lifetime access to those 6 weeks of recording. So that way you can go back through it when you're ready to launch again, and it'll be there for you, your best friend and companion, with tons of checklists and values so that you can do this. Excellent. So good being with you all. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining me.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Likewise, and good luck. Good
Thanks.
luck.
You too.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.